All right, everybody, welcome back. I hope you're having a good morning so far. I know you had good breakfasty things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at another technique that I think you're really going to like. We're going to use motivational interviewing and turbo goal setting to help your participants make healthy changes. Now, if any of you have been looking at your agenda, there's a slightly different title. It uses the word Goal Setting 2.0. And really, they're the same thing. I was just playing with the names, and we didn't coordinate them. So if you're a techie kind of person, we're going to be looking at Goal Setting 2.0 a little bit later. And if you think of yourself more as living life in the fast lane, then it's the turbo goal setting for you. But it's the same thing. All right. So here we go. I wanted to show you something from the 2013 Regional Training Survey. And this was question 6, which was, in your opinion, how many of your participants leave the WIC appointment feeling motivated to attempt the goal or goals that you set with them? And between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 of you said that 75% or more of your WIC participants leave the appointment feeling motivated, which is impressive. So I just wanted to congratulate you on that. When we look at all of the numbers, a little over half of you answered that more than half or more left the appointment motivated, and about 45% of you indicated that it was half the time or less, just to give you a little context there. I wanted to share this quote, or it's not really a quote, this comment that one of you made on the regional training survey. But before I do that, I wanted to show you that we did include in your packets some of the responses. We were just so impressed with how many of you responded with individual answers and just such wonderful answers. So we included one sheet. Unfortunately, we didn't have room to put everyone's answers here on the sheet. But we just wanted to show you how much we appreciated all that time you took to write so much detail. And you'll find on the sheet the answer to, imagine your best friend is giving you a toast, what does she say about you? Really a wonderful, wonderful group of folks here at WIC. So we wanted to let you know how much you're appreciated and let you read what some of the rest of you had indicated for that question. So thanks so much for taking the time, and what a wonderful, wonderful group of folks. So if we look at the particular comment I have highlighted here on the slide, one of you said, participants always have a hard time choosing goals. They often say, I don't know, or are not willing to think of something that needs to be worked on. I often give them options, and they choose one of my options. So I thought this was really the perfect comment to set the stage for what we're going to be looking at now. We know that by looking at appreciative inquiry earlier this morning, we already know we're going to have a head start, don't we? Because appreciative inquiry is all about helping our WIC participants be more focused and present, right, at the appointment, more engaged, helping them leave those distractions of their lives and those difficult situations behind, and helping them focus on a success and being more engaged, more confident, more energized. So of course that is going to help you out when it comes time to set goals, isn't it? Excuse me. So that's really going to help you out when it's time to set goals. And then the rest of what we're going to look at now is going to help even more with that goal setting. So let's just jump right in there and start. I'm going to be showing you a particular type of motivational interviewing today. And I know that many of you have had some training in motivational interviewing. I actually saw a number of comments on the regional training survey from folks who were using motivational interviewing and liking it. I also know that there's been some feedback that some of the motivational interviewing trainings have been perhaps a little dry, a little theoretical, maybe not as helpful as you like. So what I wanted to do here is show you that there's a whole world of motivational interviewing techniques out there. And many of these you probably haven't seen or heard of before, with good reason, because a lot of these take a lot more time than we have to use in the WIC appointment. Some of them take just a lot of practice and training and skill, and some of them take a lot of time. So things like decisional balance, developing discrepancy, those are really good techniques. Motivational interviewing is great. It really does work, okay? But some of the techniques you probably haven't heard about just because they don't work. They're not appropriate in a short WIC appointment. So the type of motivational interviewing we're going to focus on today is going to be change talk. I should probably mention the definition, really. Motivational interviewing, a series of strategies or techniques to help participants process their ambivalence, get off the fence, and discover their internal motivation to act. So when we want someone to make a health change, we know they have good reasons for not making it, right? For doing what they're doing, keeping on doing what they're doing, the unhealthy behavior, right? And so motivational interviewing helps them to see some of the positive reasons, find their motivation, their personal motivation for making the change. And change talk is a wonderful way to do that, and it works perfectly in a WIC appointment. I'll mention very briefly that both the appreciative inquiry techniques and this motivational interviewing that I'm showing you right now, these are things that I've used over and over and over again in my WIC appointments last year. So you don't need to worry that this sounds nice, right? Wouldn't it be great if it worked in a WIC appointment? I've actually used all of these things a lot, and they worked really well. Okay. So change talk is our focus. I wanted to say something about ORS because that is very likely what most of you have learned when you've gotten some motivational interviewing training, because it's very simple and short and straightforward. So let me go ahead and just briefly touch on ORS. The good news is that you're going to get to use ORS with this training today. So all that work that you did learning about reflecting and summarizing and affirming, you can still use that. But we're going to put ORS in a supporting role here. The change talk is going to be the main player, and the ORS is going to be what we use to amplify that feeling. Just like we were talking about with appreciative inquiry, affirming after asking the question to help amplify the feeling. With motivational interviewing, we can use affirming. We can also use reflecting or summarizing in order to support that feeling. And the reflecting, of course, just saying back what mom said, right? Mom said, I'm eating broccoli, carrots, green peppers, and peas, and you just reflect that right back to her. The summarizing, when mom talks for a paragraph, right? She talks a lot, and you don't want to reflect back all that. You just summarize it in a sentence or so. And the affirming, you've got, you know. Okay, so you've seen this slide before. We're going to focus on the right-hand side now, the motivational interviewing side. And we know that our WIC participants don't just need information, right? They need to be motivated. That's what we're focusing on. And they need that confidence to feel that they can attempt that new behavior. And we've really covered that already. So motivational interviewing, change talk in particular, a wonderful way to help our participants increase their motivation. And it's very simply asking a question to help your participant talk about the change that she wants to make. That's what it is. So instead of increasing feelings of pride or confidence, motivational interviewing is meant to increase feelings of motivation and determination. I want to do that. In the office, you'll see that your participant is more committed to making a change. How will you notice that? Again, she'll be engaging with you. She'll look you in the eye. When she says what she wants to do, when she talks about the goal, she's going to have a nice, strong voice. It isn't going to trail off at the end. It's not going to go up like it's a question. She's not sure if she's going to do it, right? It's going to be a nice, strong statement about the goal, the change she wants to make. And she'll leave the office more likely to do the behavior. Now, the key here is she'll leave the office more likely to do the behavior. The studies show this if she's the one doing the talking about the change. I know you don't have a lot of time. You really want your participants to do well. And it's so tempting to jump in there and start talking to her about the change she needs to make, right? To tell her, oh, you need to do this. You know, try this. If you are the one who's talking, she is not going to have that benefit, okay? She needs to be the one who's doing the talking about change. All right, so we're going to focus on the right hand of the slide. We've seen this slide before. Again, the point being that we need our participant to talk. We can't talk for her. We want her to talk about the change that she's going to make, and what does it sound like? So your mom might say, I'm not going to buy pop at the store. So you had a conversation, right? And you asked her a question. I'm not going to buy pop at the store anymore. I just can't buy new clothes. I can't fit in these clothes if I keep drinking all this pop. Or your participant might say, we're going to start having a vegetable at dinner every night. They're just so important for kids' health. We're going to start having a veggie. So that's what change talk sounds like. Let's look at the summary. When are we going to use it? We know with appreciative inquiry that really you can use it at almost any point in the WIC appointment. It works great. Anytime you've got a distracted mom, a mom that you want to pull back into the appointment, be more engaged, right? Although we're focusing on using it with nutrition education, change talk, we only use it at one time, and that is when we're goal setting. We know what it is, and that pause is still as important, right? We need to give mom a chance to talk. We can't jump in and talk for her. So now we're going to spend a couple minutes looking at two different ways that we can help our moms talk about change. I'm going to look at the bottom one on the left there, the scale first. And this one would go, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most, how much do you want to stop drinking pop? Now I know that sounds a little long, but you'd be surprised how quickly moms get the scale. And they actually enjoy, it's kind of fun, to rate yourself on a scale. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most, how much do you want to stop drinking pop? Let's say mom says, I'm about a 4. Now you probably think it matters if she says a 4 or she says an 8, right? I mean, an 8's better. An 8 means she's really motivated. A 4, not so much. And it does matter in certain situations, but for our purposes, it doesn't matter. The thing you say next is what matters, and that is you need to say, oops, it looks like our slides have a mind of their own. Okay, so you need to say, whatever number she says, why didn't you pick a lower number? This is really important. So mom says I'm a 4, you say, okay, you're a 4, why didn't you pick a 1 or a 2? Or why didn't you pick a 2 or a 3? When you do that, what does mom start to say? She starts to say, oh, why didn't I pick a 2 or a 3? Well, because, I'm just starting to look like the Goodyear blimp, and when I drink a couple of pops, I feel really tired and I have to go take a nap. I just don't feel that good, right? So mom starts to talk about all the reasons why she wants to make the change. What happens if you mess up and you go the other way, and mom's a 4 and you say, because, a higher number is better, right? So you think, I'm gonna say to mom, well, why didn't you pick a 7 or an 8? What does mom start to say then? She starts to say things like, well, I still have 3 cases in the basement. And my friend comes over and she always wants a pop. What am I going to say to her if I don't have pop in the house, right? And you see how that goes, right? So if you mess up and you go in the wrong direction, mom is going to start to argue and convince herself to not make the change, right? And that's not why we're here, right? We want to help mom drink less pop. We don't want to help mom convince herself that she will always, always, always keep drinking the pop. Okay. So then let's go ahead and look at, I remember, I want to tell you one more thing about this. What happens if mom says, oh, I'm a 0 or I'm a 1? What do you do? 2 things. First thing you do is you make sure she understood the scale. All right? So you say to her, okay, so that means that you have no interest whatsoever in drinking less pop, right? And then half the time mom's going to say, oh, no, I meant I really, really want to stop, right? So then you're good. If mom agrees, that's true, I'm a 1. And I know a 1 means I'm not interested in making the change. Then that's your cue to say very nicely, this doesn't seem like it's a very good goal for you right now. You don't seem that interested in it. What would you rather work on instead? Okay, so it won't happen a lot. But if you do get that 1 or a 2, remember the whole point of this exercise is asking mom why she didn't pick a lower number. If you can't pick a lower number, that's your cue to have that conversation. Okay. The second way you can get mom to talk about change is to ask her this particular question. Why might you want to stop drinking pop? Now, for much of what we've done today, you can have a lot of leeway around how you're going to ask that question. This one I'm going to encourage you to use as is, all right? The might is very important. Just think about the last time that you were thinking about making a change, but you were finding it to be hard, right? Let's say you decided, I've got to stop watching so much TV at night. And imagine someone came up to you and said, right, and you're still thinking about it, you're not sure, you're on the fence, you know it'd be good, but you haven't stopped yet, right? So then imagine someone comes up to you and says, so why are you going to stop drinking? Why are you going to stop watching TV? What happens? For certain people, the walls go up, right? They get defensive. They're like, well, I haven't decided yet. I might not stop watching TV. In fact, there's a really good program on tonight. I'm going to watch it, right? So we don't want to set the defenses off. When we use might, we open the door. It's a possibility. It's not threatening, right? Why might you want to stop watching TV at night so much, right? There's no threat there. So that's why the might is so important. We don't want to cause mom to shut down, get defensive, right? Undo all our great work if we did some appreciative inquiry, right? We don't want to do that. So the might is really important. And the why is there because we really want mom to think about a personal reason. A general, generic reason is not going to cut it for motivation, is it? So what if your WIC participant says something general like, because it's healthier, or my mom told me to, my doctor told me to? Do these sound like personal reasons? Was anyone ever, well, I shouldn't say was anyone ever motivated by it because it's healthier, right? Because some people are. But does that sound like it's a really personal reason? It's really going to get mom motivated to change her behavior? Maybe not. So when you hear those general kinds of things, you can simply follow up with, why does that matter to you? Or, how would your life be better if you made that change? How would your life be better if you stopped drinking pop? And let mom tell you. Remember, the point of this is to help mom talk about why she wants to make the change. And we want to do the same thing we did with appreciative inquiry. We don't want to take no for an answer. Just as we believe every mom, every WIC mom, every WIC participant has a success in there somewhere that we can find as a detective, right, success detective, we also want to believe that every mom has a personal reason, a motivation that she wants to make the change that she mentioned to you. We just have to help her find it. Okay, so now we're going to do something a little bit fun. You see where there's that blank there in the dialogue, the line? We're going to vote. All right, I'm going to give you two possible things that you could say, and we're going to vote on that. But first, let's walk through what this was like in the WIC clinic. So you've been talking to mom, and let's say she's pregnant. She's been gaining more, a fair amount of weight, more than maybe is healthy. And so mom says to you, you know what, I'm going to stop eating chips and cookies. And you decide to use the 1 to 10 scale. You could use the other one, right? Why might you want to stop eating chips and cookies? But let's say this time you decided to use the scale, 1 to 10 scale. So you say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most, how much do you want to stop eating the chips and the cookies? And mom says to you, oh, I'm about a 6. Okay, now we're going to vote. One possible answer is, okay, you're a 6. Why didn't you tell me a 3 or a 4? And the other possible answer is, okay, you're a 6. Why didn't you tell me a 7 or an 8? Okay, so who's voting for? I want you to put your hands up, and everybody doing the live stream, don't watch us, okay? I want you to do it in your room. Okay, so let's vote. Who's going to vote that the correct thing to say to mom at this point is a 6? Why didn't you pick a 4 or a 5? Put up your hand. Who's voting for that one? All right. And then let's see, is anyone voting for the other option? 6, why didn't you tell me a 7 or an 8? And everyone is correct. Good job. All right. Just for those who are not in the room, everyone raise their hand for the answer, which will help mom talk about the change she wants to make, which is a 6. Why didn't you pick a 4 or a 5? Or you could have said a 2 or a 3 as well. Okay, so then you did the right thing. You asked the question perfectly, and mom says, I don't want to be this big. It's going to be so hard to lose the weight after the baby's born. Okay, so you did the right thing, and mom got to talk about the change that she wants to make. Fantastic. Okay, now we're going to shift gears just a little bit. You've done all this work. You've helped mom become more confident, more engaged with appreciative inquiry. You've helped mom find her motivation with a motivational interviewing question. And I will mention that you may not use both in the same WIC appointment. The appreciative inquiry is really motivating, right? It gets people energized. You may find that your participant is motivated enough, you don't need to go to the change talk part, right? You might just get away with appreciative inquiry all day long. I know I did that quite a bit. But there will be some participants that don't seem very excited, very engaged by that goal that you're setting with them. That's when you use the change talk. You've done all that hard work, and you really want mom to be successful with the goal that she sets. So I'm going to suggest one more thing here, which is this turbo goal setting, or on your agenda it's called Goal Setting 2.0. Same thing. And that is, I want you to start to imagine that your WIC appointment does not end when you set the goal. Right? Right now the goal set, phew, I'm done. Right? We got the goal. I want you to start to imagine that your WIC appointment ends when your WIC participant opens her front door. Okay? So imagine that space and time, right? That distance. Imagine a WIC appointment going all the way to when your WIC appointment opens your WIC participant, opens her front door, and she needs to start implementing that goal that you set together. So what this does is it helps her think through 1 or 2 key little pieces for when she gets home, so she can actually implement the goal and so she can remember to do it. This only takes 30 seconds. It's really fast. All right, but it can make a huge difference in whether your WIC participant actually starts to do the goal or not. So let's go ahead and look at some of these categories, and these are well-established categories from the worlds of from coaching and teaching and behavior change psychology. The first one is social support. We know that people who have social support do much better with goals and continuing to do those goals. So you can ask a very simple question. Is there anyone that will help you remember to do this, that will do it with you, that would enjoy hearing you talk about it once you've done it and you're successful and you want to celebrate it? Really important to help mom to start to think about who's in her corner and can they help her with the goal. Another key area, how will she remember? We all have great intentions. It's hard to remember the first couple of times, isn't it? This one was very popular last year when I was out talking to moms. Can she set an alarm on her phone? Maybe she needs to remember to serve up a healthy snack for her kids mid-morning. Or maybe she's pregnant and she needs to remember to have an afternoon snack. Can she set an alarm on her phone? Does she need you to give her a sticky note so she can write a note for herself and put it on the refrigerator? Can she pair it with something she does every day? Like taking a walk after dinner. Your WIC mom says, I'm going to start taking a walk every day. You let her go home. Does she do it? Does she not do it? If you ask her 1 or 2 of these questions, she'll be much more likely to start. Is there anyone you can walk with? When would be a good time to do this? It's kind of hot in the middle of the day right now in Denver. Could you take a walk after dinner? Okay, next category. Who does she need to have a conversation with? This is really important, isn't it? Because we know how many other people are interacting with that 3 or 4-year-old, for example. Does mom need to talk to the daycare? Does she need to have a conversation with grandma who just moved in 2 months ago and has been handing out candy left and right like it's Halloween every day since she got to the house? Does she need to talk to her husband or partner? Someone else doing the shopping and they keep buying pop or they keep buying some other things that mom agrees are not the best choice. So who does she need to have a conversation with? You might even want to help her practice a little bit. That can be fun. Okay, so it's your mother-in-law. What could you say to her? Pretend I'm your mother-in-law. What would you say to her? Right? And help her think through what she might do before she leaves the WIC office. Okay, helpful details, first steps, another important category. When will she start? Just asking her, so are you going to start taking your walk tomorrow? Are you going to start this weekend? Are you going to start not going out for fast food in the evenings? Now? When are you going to start? That helps mom think through, hey, this is real, this is serious, I'm actually going to do this. Is there anything she needs to help her be successful? And I'm going to mention so many of our WIC conversations have to do with a healthy weight, right? And how much weight is mom gaining when she's pregnant? Or so one thing that you may want to ask her is, do you have a scale at home? Right? She's seeing the doctor once a month. Is that really enough information for her to help her gain as much as she needs to gain or to slow down her weight gain? You might want to talk to her about, hey, they're not expensive. You just want to pick up a scale at Target so you can keep track? You just live 3 blocks from here. Do you want to stop by the WIC office every week? You can check your weight. Clear that with your clinic supervisor before you say that. Possible barriers. A really big one I encourage you to start thinking about and talking about with your participants is it's summer. When it's hot and everybody's thirsty, what is everyone drinking in that home? Right? And we know the answer we want to hear, which is water. And we know all the other answers that are actually, we hear a lot, right? So you can help get your mom prepared by saying, hey, I know it's really hot out, everybody's thirsty. What are you giving the kids when they're thirsty? Are you teaching them when we're thirsty we drink water? What are you doing? Help mom think through that for a particular situation. Or Halloween, mom's pregnant, she's gaining a little too fast. Do you have Halloween candy at home? What are you doing? What are you going to do with that? Is that going to help you with your goal you just told me about? Right? So help her think through it. Imagine a WIC appointment extending all the way to when your WIC mom has to do these things in her home. Okay, we really talked about what the turtle goal setting sounds like. So let's move on now, and I'd like to talk a little bit about some tips for success for all of you. And really, what are we doing when we look at tips for success for you? We're doing the same thing I just encouraged you to do for your WIC participants, right? I'm not imagining that our conversation ends here when I'm done talking. I'm thinking about you having to implement it when you go back to your WIC clinic. And we want to think about a few things that will help you be more successful. Just as we want you to help your WIC moms think about what they need to do at home to implement their goals. Okay, so tips for success. Pick one day next week and practice being a success detective with 1 or 2 of your participants. Start slow, be curious. So remember, this is for you as much as it is for your WIC participants. And once you do this a few times, you will enjoy it and you'll want to do more of it. But no one can help you cross that bridge between hearing about it today and having practiced it enough that you see the benefit and you want to keep doing it because you're motivated. You see how much it adds to what you're able to do for your participants and how much fun it is to do at work. All right, so the practice is the thing these couple of weeks and months right now. So I'm going to suggest that you start slow. You don't need to do this every day next week with every WIC participant, but pick one day and pick 1 or 2 participants and try out being a success detective. You may want to put a sticky note on your computer to remind you of what you're trying to practice that day, just as you might tell your WIC participant to. All right, this next one, the car diesel, I've been waiting all morning to talk about this. Okay, so Linda has created this very cool thing. I'm going to show you in just a minute. I see some of you already have it out. First couple weeks, right? Starting is hard. You may want to decide on Friday to pick which technique you want to use the following week, okay? And then look at your schedule, see if there's a day it's a little lighter, or you might want to start practicing, all right? This is also a great technique for supervisors and clinic managers, because when you see that card easel sitting out, you'll know that your staff were practicing. And you can, when you have a minute and they have a minute, you can have a conversation. You can do the same thing with the person that sits at the desk next to you. Use your card easel as a little flag. Hey, I'm working on this today. And then when people walk by and they see you're working on it, when you both have a minute, you can take a few extra minutes and say, hey, how did it go? What technique were you practicing? How did your WIC mom respond? Would you change anything about what you did? Having conversations with each other about what it's like to use these techniques will really help. They'll really support you. And supervisors and clinic managers, also including those kinds of conversations when you have an extra couple of minutes in some of your staff meetings or huddles, will be really helpful to keep this alive and help everyone feel supported. And then finally, use appreciative inquiry with each other to help build confidence in using the new techniques. Use motivational interviewing with each other to help each other keep improving. All right. So I'm going to just breeze through this slide, but we talked about a lot of things that are really different from what you're currently doing. All right? And really they're little things to do, but they're big things as far as thinking about them or ideas. Okay? And so I just wanted to highlight a few of those. So one big change is think of your job now as including the role of success detective. Think about giving your WIC participants 2 minutes of fame at every WIC appointment. That's a big switch, isn't it? Remember the other reason now for having a conversation. Not just to get information from your participants, but also to allow your participant to talk and feel and have that internal transformation that is central to behavior change. We also talked about very, very briefly about how we're going to need to start recognizing how mom's weight and her eating and her exercise habits matter, not just to her baby, her child, but for herself as well. And hopefully there'll be more training about that coming up next year. But imagine seeing that WIC mom in front of you. She's had her baby, right? She's got the infant, she's got the 2 to 3-year-old. Imagine if you could see her not just as mom after that baby, but mom before the next baby, right? Because so many pregnancies are unplanned. What would you want to say to mom before she had the next baby, right? To get a little healthier, maybe get a little healthier weight, right? Be eating a little differently. We can have these conversations, and I know you'll get more information about that. Imagine the WIC appointment extending all the way to your WIC participant's front door. That's a big switch, isn't it? It doesn't end when she gets up from her chair and leaves your desk. Imagine it going all the way to her house. What can you say in 30 seconds to help her? And now finally, we're going to end by using one more technique called taking off the expert hat when talking about growth grids for overweight children. I just could not imagine having a morning session where we focused on working with more difficult participants without talking about growth grids and explaining them to moms when the child is overweight, right? That's pretty hard? Yeah, okay. So let's do that. We're going to end with that. All right, so taking off the expert hat, why is that an important technique when we talk to a mom with an overweight child? Well, we know that most of our moms have had some kind of experience in the past, right, where they've talked to an expert and they haven't been treated very well. They feel like the expert has judged them, has pointed a finger, right, has made them feel bad, has not explained things. So experts are great, and we're happy that you know as much as you do about nutrition and breastfeeding and health. We're not saying don't be an expert, but what we're saying is it's important to not trigger any of those hot buttons that mom might have that would cause her to shut down and not listen. And if you do anything that she remembers from a previous experience with an expert who didn't treat her very well, that could happen. So I'm going to suggest something that's kind of radical, but bear with me because I found that it really, really worked when you're talking about growth grids for overweight children. What I'm going to suggest is that you think of those 3 grids, the weight for age, the height for age, and the BMI percentile for age, think of those as 3 pages of a very short story. Okay? This is a book with 3 pages. And imagine that you are reading that story together with mom. And if it helps, think about when you've read a story to a child. You're sitting side by side, and even if you've read the book 30 times already, you're pretending that you don't know the ending, right? Because the child needs that. So imagine when you go over growth grids with your moms that you are flipping the pages of a storybook, that you do not know the ending. You are discovering what the story means together. And I'm going to give you an example of that in just a second. All right? That can make all the difference. The other thing that's really key in taking off the expert hat and not getting your mom, your WIC mom's resistance, right, to come up, is to remember that weight for age is only part of the story. Mom's heard over and over, wait, there's a problem with the weight. So when you are able to say with complete truth to mom, you know, the weight by itself, it doesn't mean anything. We need to see where your child's height is. It's going to completely disarm her. She's used to hearing, weight is the problem. All right, so let me go ahead and prove to you why you can say that. Okay, so we've got a little girl here. Her weight for age is at right there about the 95th percentile weight for age. Many of you, when you see this at your desk, you're thinking, uh-oh, here we go. I better get my body armor on, right? We're going to have one of those conversations, right, because the child's overweight. Have a look. Ooh. Have a look at this. Oh my gosh, this is a really, really tall little girl. Right? Now I know you don't see this that often. Usually that height for age is a couple of channels below where the weight for age is, right? But sometimes you will find a child whose height is really tall. That child's really tall. And so this child is actually quite proportional. When we look at the BMI percentile for age, right? Really, the weight was at the 95th, but so was the height. This is why you can say to every mom, even if you think that the direction is headed in, oh my gosh, the child is not tall, this is an overweight child, because of this, you can say to every mom, and you can disarm her, so she's not all, oh my gosh, she pointed out weight again, right? You can say to mom, the weight by itself doesn't mean anything. We need to see what his height is. So to finish up, and I know we're right at time here, over time, I'm going to read through very quickly. I'm going to act like I'm the WIC counselor and you are the mom, okay? And you have an overweight child, and this is what it's going to sound like. And then we're going to break into our breakout sessions, and in small groups, again, you're going to get to practice this. And I do have included in your packets a point-by-point talking points list. So you don't need to catch everything I'm saying. Just listen for the general gist of it and imagine what it would feel like as the mom to have someone talk to you about your child this way instead of the way that she usually hears. Okay. All right. Okay. So here we have Jonathan. And we can see where his weight for age is there on the graph. So the first thing we're going to do is help orient her, right? Because we know moms get so uncomfortable with graphs. No one uses graphs in their regular life, right? So we don't want to use channels. We may not even want to use percentiles, right? Get that blank look. So we want to help orient her, though, so she can compare it with the next page of the story, which is going to be the child's height. So here we can say, okay, look, here's Jonathan's weight at this time, at this age. And he's right there at that top line. And then we say, his weight doesn't mean anything. This doesn't mean anything by itself. We need to see where his height is. And mom relaxes. And then we look at this. Oh, see where his height for age is. It's 3 or 4 lines down from the top. You may need to go back and forth with mom until she gets that they're very different, right? And then you can say his height and his weight aren't proportional right now. We say right now because moms are used to thinking of overweight as a permanent condition, right, for themselves. They think of, oh, they've struggled their whole lives. We want to emphasize this is right now. And then, here's the second radical thing. I'm going to encourage you to use your hands. All right? Get away from the grid altogether. They just make moms nervous. Okay? So show mom. Okay, so Jonathan's weight is up here. His height is down here. Moms get that. Moms get that. Even if they don't understand what you just did with the graph, they're going to get this little hand motion thingy. Okay? And then all you need to say to explain this next piece is to show mom, you know what? Kids who are proportional, they're in that middle part. They're in those middle lines, right? And Jonathan, he's up with the kids whose weight is too much for their height. And if we look at the bottom of those lines, those are where the kids are whose weight is too little for their height. What did we just do? We didn't jump on Jonathan and his weight like piranhas. We explained a little more to mom. Right? We showed her weight can be not proportional when it's too much. It can be not proportional when it's too little. It takes the pressure off again. And then we can finish by showing again with our hands. This is what you need to do. We need, it's hard to do that. We need to slow down his weight, right? He's gaining weight really fast. We need to slow that down so that his height can catch up and he's more proportional. And at that point, moms understand. They get this, okay? And then you can talk about them without any resistance. They're still with you. They're not saying, but my doctor said his weight is fine. They're not saying, he's not overweight, right? They're with you, they're listening, and they're ready to get a little bit of help from you. Okay. So I apologize, the whole hand thing with the mic thing didn't go exactly the way I expected. But to summarize then, taking off the expert hat, you may be very sensitive, you may say all the right things, but the way we've been doing this tends to set up mom's alarm system. And she feels like she's being criticized, she feels like she's not being listened to, and the walls go up and she doesn't listen. So I encourage you to try using this new technique, which is flip through those 3 graphs like they're 3 pages of a book. And as if you don't know the ending, you're discovering it with mom, right? Make sure that you point out that weight by itself is not the issue. It's not with kids, right? Because they're growing inches, right? The weight by itself doesn't tell us anything. And then watch how many of your moms say to you at the end of that little fun little hand gesture thing, what can I do? They're really interested, they're with you, and they want to know. Okay, so we're out of time. Let's go ahead. We're going to break now into the small group, and you're going to get a chance to practice that in your small groups.
Okay, so in your packet there, you have a guide for talking mom through growth grids. So there's some bullet points on there, and then there's 2 growth grids. I'm only showing one side of this here. So go ahead and read through the guide. Have a partner, pick a partner, read through the guide, and then we're going to go through, have one person act as the WIC staff member and one person as the participant, and then switch and talk about that growth grid. How would you do that with what Nora has discussed?
Your camera is right there.
We have about 10 minutes.
Every once in a while,